So welcome everyone to the autumn semester 24 of the Hyperloop seminar, and therefore already the 10th session of the Hyperloop seminar. I'm very pleased to see so many faces. And as usual, we start our semester with a short introduction round. So basically we start to introduce the hosts and the co-hosts. So every partner will say something about themselves, and we will also describe a bit how the seminar works. And yeah, that will be the content of the introduction. So I will start with introducing Swissloop, as I am part of Swissloop myself. So Swissloop is a student team based in Zurich at ETH, and we are researching on Hyperloop. So basically we build a new Hyperloop prototype and track every year, and we show it at international competitions. So for the last 3 years, we've been part of the European Hyperloop Week. And most of the students are from ETH itself. So we have mechanical engineers, we have electrical engineers, but we also do have students from other universities. And right now we are around 30 students. So the new season has just started off in mid-September. And yeah, I will show you a quick overview. So you see, we've already had 8 seasons of Swissloop. That means we've had 8 pods. And I picked out a few of the pods to give you a short overview of how Swissloop and the technology of our Hyperloop prototypes evolved. So the very first pod was Escher, and there we had a cold gas propulsion, and we competed at the SpaceX competition in Los Angeles. And 2 years fast forward, we built Claude Nicollier, which had the first linear motor, and it's now exhibited at the Museum of Transport, so you can go and have a look there. And another 2-year fast forward, it was Simon Amann. It was the first ever student pod who could levitate, and therefore we actually used the linear induction motor. So it was the same motor for levitation and propulsion, and it was also the first pod which we participated at the first EHW. And the year afterwards, we kind of realized that we have to split up the levitation and the propulsion. And therefore, we built a new propulsion system, which was the linear reluctance motor. And it was also the first pod who could carry cargo. So we could carry up to 100 kilograms of extra weight. And then another 2-year fast forward, we have the pod of this year, which was Sarah Springman. And it was the first Swissloop pod, which was vacuum proof. So it could withhold for 30 minutes. And we also showed the concept of the cruising motor and the booster. So basically our motor was able to be propelled with the booster and at the same time work itself as a cruising motor. So the booster was actually more, so we could do a proof of concept, but we couldn't yet show it together with the whole pod. And also Sarah Springman was the first ever student pod to carry a passenger cabin. So on the side of the track, so not when operating the pod, you could sit inside of it, and you could already imagine how it would feel being inside of a Hyperloop. Yeah, and for next season, we will see what it will bring, but we will design a whole new pod again, just like every year. And another thing you can do at Swissloop, maybe if you listen and you are not part yet of a student team, so Swissloop offers the option to do a thesis with us. So you can do your bachelor, semester, or master thesis. And we have lots of different topics. So you could do a technical or even an economical topic. Yeah, so at EHW, you can usually also present socio-economic award. So you can also present your economical thesis with us. Yeah, and with that, I would give the word to Eurotube, and they can present themselves.
Yes, hello everybody, and thanks Andrea for the sweet introduction. And by the way, it is also very wonderful to see so many faces today. I am happy. This is Damla from Eurotube Foundation, and Eurotube Foundation is a non-profit research institution, which I will shortly introduce to you. Can you also click again, Andrea? Okay, perfect, thank you. So now, Eurotube Foundation, as I mentioned, is a non-profit research institution. And we are backed by the Swiss government. We were recognized as National Research Institute of National Importance. This is how we started to this journey. Then we closely work with the both academic and industry partners. Basically, we help them to develop technologies towards Hyperloop. We are preparing the Swiss industry for these new markets, and we are happy to be part of this ecosystem. Last but not least, we have open access test facilities, so-called DemoTube, which I will introduce to you shortly. And through this open access test facility, we act as an incubator platform, such that we give possibility to student teams, Hyperloop entities, or companies to test and develop their research. Yes, thanks. And for our mission house, milestone, sorry. As I mentioned, we were launched in 2017 as the association between ETH Zurich and EPFL. Then this time we got the support of SBB, the Swiss Federal Railways. And then we switched to foundation from association. Then in 2020, we got the government recognition. And later, we started our work on DemoTube project, this test facility. And we completed the first results of the life cycle analysis. This is the feasibility study which was conducted for the Swiss Federal Office of Transport. And after this study, we received our permits, the one in Zurich, in Dübendorf. And early this year, we started our construction. And we opened the first phase of Hyperloop, the first phase of DemoTube. Yes. And this summer, we hosted, together with the European Hyperloop Week, we hosted some events together. At Eurotube, our main mission is to build a research foundation with a focus on Hyperloop-related topics, of course, and to be able to be a successful unit, we have three main projects at Eurotube. The first one is TwinTube. This is a digital simulation platform which help us to conduct feasibility studies and closely work with other companies or even governments to predict, to address economic or ecological related perspectives of Hyperloop. The second one, DemoTube. This is the 120-meter low speed test track in Zurich, Dübendorf, and this will be used and is using right now actually as a demonstrator for technology validation, communication, or networking activities. And this is the one we opened last summer in July. And the next step for us is to have the Alpha Tube. This is the 3.1 kilometer high-speed test track, which will be in Canton Valais in Switzerland again. And this will allow us, and of course other Hyperloop entities, student teams, to be able to scale their technologies through proof of concepts for up to real Hyperloop speed, 900 kilometers per hour. Yes. Last but not least, our value proposition at Eurotube is that we want to fill the gap between infrastructure and the vehicle. As you might know, there are some big companies who are actually our friends, like Hyperloop, Nevomo, or Hyperloop One. And those companies are mainly focusing on vehicles and propulsion. But on the other hand, at Eurotube side, and for example, together with Institute of Hyperloop Technology, Lucas and TUM Hyperloop, we are mainly focusing on infrastructure. And what does it mean? It includes station and vacuum systems like airlock system, vacuum assurance, isolation valves. Secondly, it includes infrastructure and civil engineering-related systems like modular concrete tubes that we are developing right now. We are also producing airproof seal systems and related joints. Last but not least, we are also working on the electrical side, such that how to design the station, how to launch the vehicle, how to power the whole ecosystem. That's what we are doing at Eurotube. And last but not least this time, this is the picture of our event in July. By the way, as I mentioned, this is openly accessible. So when you want to organize a trip, if you are wonder something, please reach out to us. We are always happy to explain our story and to help you, basically. So yes, by the way, I also forgot to mention that we are like Swissloop. We are also offering semester theses. So if you have any specific topics or just you want to be part of our community, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks.
Hi, and I'm taking over now. That's the Institute of Hyperloop Technology here at the University of Applied Sciences Emden-Leer and the University of Oldenburg, where we are conducting our research. On the next slide, you can see that we are working on 3 topics mainly. Since now we are looking at cargo tube logistics, which is the first logistics use case for Hyperloop, where it can quickly prove the technology and show that Hyperloop is working, how it's operating in these operational conditions, what we need to fix, and what we can learn from those operations. Then we have the GoTube Hyperloop facility. I don't know, that's an old image. Maybe it's not the slides that I put my new image in. But there should be a picture of the GoTube, how it is right now. Maybe it's sliding in if we have the next click, but I guess not. Maybe, yeah, there it is. That's what it is right now. In Emden, we installed some solar panels on it to show the public what it could look like in the future, to have like a Hyperloop infrastructure around it, very visible at the university. So that's very nice. And we can have pretty quick turnaround times for our vacuum that we can pull on the tube. We can go down to 10 millibars in around 8 minutes and down to 1 millibar in around 30 to 40 minutes. So it's fairly quick. And then we're also looking at large-scale research and technology infrastructure for Hyperloop, so we can propose a big Hyperloop infrastructure for the whole of Europe to all do research together in such an infrastructure that we would need after the first test tracks that we are now seeing all over Europe. On the next slide, we can then look at the competences that we have here at the university. We are doing some fluid dynamics, mainly also with the university in Bremen together. As I said, we're doing some control and automation for the cargo already. We have a full-scale vacuum system, and then we've done some magnetic levitation and propulsion experiments before, and are now doing more experiments with energy power systems and grid stability. If we go on for the next slide, we can see some of the projects we've worked on. That's the Hyperloop development program. Also a very nice one to have all the industry come together. We've been looking at the cargo tube logistics approach and an industrial use case in the epicenter project. We are looking to transfer our technology into the industry around the university and in the region, that's the transfer center. And then the Hyperloop Network and Technology Center, where we are looking at creating this large-scale Hyperloop research infrastructure. And that's mainly politics right now, let's say it that way. And then there's a new project that some of us, the institutions here, are also part of, which is the Hyper4Rail project that is looking at harmonizing Hyperloop technology in the future. And on the last slide, I think you can only see that we're also offering master's, bachelor's, and student thesis. I think that's common for every promoter and every institution here in the Hyperloop seminar. So approach us, and we can offer some advice on that, see what the topics are you like, and that can work with projects we do, also with the test infrastructure. We're looking forward to having a lot of theses and projects that look at using our GoTube facility right now that we have built, where we have this very quick vacuum turnaround time that you can open the tube up, put some new experiments in, do some testing, and we can very quickly pull a vacuum on the tube. So that's very helpful with that. And then we can go on, and I can hand over for the next slide to Dominic from TU Munich for their presentation.
Yo, good evening, everyone. So yeah, my name is Dominic Radek. I'm the technical lead of TUM Hyperloop. And yeah, I'm happy to give you some insights there. Maybe if you go to the next slide already. So we also started up as a student team and participated in the SpaceX competition 4 times. Also, the last 2 times we built some levitating pod in addition to the actual race pod. And yeah, we're quite successful there. And then since end of 2019, we got the chance to work on a larger project financed by the local government here, where we exactly build this kind of demonstrator facility. So the idea is to build one segment of a later Hyperloop cube of how it could look like in reality, in full scale with everything it takes. So we have a concrete tube with 4.2 meter diameter and 10 millibar operating pressure, where we can then have this capsule levitate and being propelled inside. And the capsule is also certified for passenger transport in vacuum. So we actually tested it with our guys in the vacuum, going levitating back and forth. And yeah, this was a rendering from our groundbreaking over 2022, and then just 10 months later, and just go to the next slide. That's the actual photo, how it looks like now, when it was already fully implemented and tested, certified. And there, we are currently a team of 9 full-time employees at the university. And back then we're a team of around 100 students working day and night to really make this happen. And on the next slide, you can also see an image of the interior on the one hand, and also Gavi and Flo driving in the vacuum back and forth. Like, this was the main test we were aiming. And right now, like since actually middle of last year, so since July 2023, we're now in preparation of a 1 kilometer test track. As Lucas already mentioned, also a lot of politics until you have the financing and the place where it's gonna be built, and a lot of preparation also on the technical side. We published some papers also regarding aerodynamics and concept. This is the rendering of the 1 kilometer track we are planning to build. We're also always open for student theses. So if you're here in Munich, definitely reach out. And apart from that, I think I can hand over to Hart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic, for handing over passing the floor to Hart Hyperloop. My name is Jan-Willem Visser, and I'm responsible for external affairs at Hart Hyperloop and public affairs at the Hyperloop development program that was already quickly mentioned by Lucas. And then we can maybe go to the next slide. Yes. So Hart Hyperloop, just as Swissloop and TUM Hyperloop, the founders participated in the SpaceX Hyperloop competition in California. and they founded Hard Hyperloop in 2016. And basically they did that because they wanted to further develop the Hyperloop system. We can go to the next slide. So some of the milestones that we see here is that Hard Hyperloop realized a low-speed test facility and tested the various Hyperloop subsystems in it, which includes the levitation, the lane switch within one pipe, and of course also the low pressure environment and the propulsion. And then later on, in actually this year, the European Hyperloop Center was built with the technology of HARD in the Netherlands. It's a 420-meter long test track with a pipe of a diameter of 2.5 meters. And here the same technologies, of course, in an advanced way, were tested at a larger scale. And this year we aim to test the technology at a speed of 80 to 100 kilometers per hour in the European Hyperloop Center. And now we're working on a roadmap together with our partners to come to an even bigger pilot in 2030. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so here you see that Hard Hyperloop is mostly focusing on traction systems for the Hyperloop technology. So suspended power and propulsion bogie, mostly focused on the levitation and propulsion, the hybrid electromagnetic suspension. That means that we're making use of electromagnets and permanent magnets as well, both of them to maximize the energy efficiency. Lateral guidance engines, which are very important for the Hyperloop switch, but also in order to make sure that it is it's safe, and that especially with the lane switching. And the other element, of course, is the propulsion, and this is being tested at the European Hyperloop Center. And once again, we focus on traction, so levitation, propulsion, and braking, and also power transfer. Yes, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so here you have a picture of the European Hyperloop Center in the Netherlands, which is an open test facility and that is designed by HARD. Here you see the Hyperloop vehicle of HARD Hyperloop on the top right in the tube. And this is also the location where the European Hyperloop Week will be held next year. And I'm sure that we will hear more about that in a bit. And maybe on the last slide, yeah, at the beginning I said I also am working for the Hyperloop development program. HARD Hyperloop is one of the founding partners of this ecosystem that actually represents the entire value chain for building Hyperloop. And we're currently working on a common vision on how we see the Hyperloop development in the coming years and decades, and we will soon make this public. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for introducing your company association. Yeah, so I think as all of you could see, we are all part of the Hyperloop research, so all of the co-hosts and co-organizers. So the goal of the Hyperloop seminar is, of course, to bring the technology closer to the public, and we also want to bring a collaboration. So we want to foster the exchange between the industry and academia, since we are having talks of industry partners, but we also have talks of the academia, of different students, of PhDs. So we want to promote those theses and the work, And yeah, we want to bring experts here to talk about their insights in their research. And so they have a platform to share what they have been working on. And the seminar is always on Zoom, so you can join from wherever you are. And it's every Monday at 6 p.m. And you can check out the schedule on our website, which is hyperloopseminar.org. And there you can also find links to the YouTube channel we have, which is filled with all of our past talks. And we also have a database. So if you're looking for a specific topic, you can go through our database, and there the link to the YouTube video is also there. Yeah. And a quick explanation of how the seminar works. So like I said, we usually have students or experts from the industry, and usually we have 2 talks. So after every talk, we have a short exchange round, and where we want to answer all the questions of the public. So how you can do that, we are using the Q&A tool from Zoom. So basically you can drop in your questions in this Q&A tool of Zoom. You can also send the question anonymously. So after every talk, we can stop and answer your questions, and yeah, also foster a bit of an exchange between the guest and the public, which is watching. Yeah, so with that, we are done with the introduction, and I'm not sure who is introducing our next talk.
I will do that.
Okay, so I
And
will
if there's any
work with-
question, we can moderate the questions first and see if there's some questions related to the topics that we just discussed relating to the presentation we have just seen. So yeah, there's a question about if there's an update on technical documents and regulation. I think we might answer that after the next talk, maybe if there's a more general topic not relating to the institutions here, but we'll definitely save that up for later. If there's no other questions yet, we will introduce Mario. I think Mario, you're on the call. You're already co-host. You can start sharing your presentation if you'd like to. I'll just have a few words to announce you. You're an aerospace engineer by training from TU Delft, just doing your master's in this course of studies. You have been part of from your student, as I've heard, also didn't know that yet. And you've been part of Delft Hyperloop as well, designed their levitation system, so you know a lot about Hyperloop systems already. And then you joined EHW as a technical team member, and now you're the executive director for this year's edition of EHW that is taking place at the European Hyperloop Center next year.
Right,
Welcome, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Lucas. Let me figure out how to share my screen for a second, then I'll get started. All right, well, thank you very much for the introduction and everyone that talked before me. I'm here today to introduce to you the European Hyperloop Week. I know that most of you have already heard it. Let's just take a look at the history of it, what has happened in the past, how it came to be, what we do, and just also what is coming up next. So let's get started with the history of the EHW. As most of you know, 2013, Elon Musk published a white paper, just bringing the idea of the Hyperloop to the knowledge of the public, general public. Just bringing it as a transportation system using capsules, supported by an air-bearing surface inside a low-pressure tube. But this idea wasn't really new. It had been already discussed for a few decades, but the idea hadn't really stuck in the past. So thanks to the fame of Elon Musk and the release of the paper, it's reignited the interest of everyone in the industry and just brought together a lot of people, a lot of minds to think about this problem, this opportunity to just bring a more efficient mode of transport, but also faster, which could help also to lower the greenhouse emissions thanks to, well, the reduced energy consumption. So in the upcoming years, Elon Musk and SpaceX promoted the SpaceX Hyperloop competition, which took place from around 2016 to 2019, which had the objective to bring teams together, to build a prototype, to push the boundaries of what we thought of speed, efficiency, and safety, the Hyperloop sector. So it just promoted teams to build fast, efficient quantum science. Unluckily, in 2019, COVID-19 hit, so the competition was discontinued. But there were still a lot of student teams around the world building these prototypes and just wanting to showcase what they have worked on and where the technology was at the moment. So in 2020, for the most prominent teams from Europe at the moment, Swissloop from Switzerland, Delft Hyperloop from the Netherlands, Hyperloop UBV from Spain, and Hyperloop Edinburgh from Scotland, got together and decided to organize this European Hyperloop Week. So an event this time hosted in Europe to well, fulfill quite some objectives at the same time. So bringing together all the excitement of Hyperloop to Europe, since it was before more seen in America, but there were still a lot of teams in Europe. Build an environment where we could share, discuss Hyperloop concepts, and also try to innovate together and collaborate, but also to show what the current status of the technology is. Since then, the EHW has occurred already 4 years, each time on one of the hosting team home cities. So first in 2021, had the first edition in Valencia. There was still a lot of hype all around the Hyperloop competitions from SpaceX, and a lot of interest to push this European competition forward. The next year, the competition happened in Delft, Netherlands, 2022. 2023 was in Edinburgh. And the last edition that we have had at the moment was in Zurich last year. Each edition has changed a little bit based on, well, our feedback as organizers, since we can see how the competition has happened in the past, what has improved with respect to other editions, and what can be done better the next edition. But also from feedback from the participants, any jurors that participate, sponsors, in general, any other Hyperloop company that also wants to promote the technology and collaboration between everyone. Also want to just take a small moment to promote the documentary that we have done this year. I don't know if you can see it in the screen. But this also gives you an idea of what the EHW is. I'm not going to play it. You can share the presentation later. You can look this up in the internet. But I encourage you to take a look at it. So what's now? But we've had 4 editions already. All of the founding teams had participated already in hosting this competition. So what happens now? So already a couple of years back, we started to have conversations with the HART, with the European Hyperloop Center, to see where we're going to host this event for the next edition. Thanks to the European Hyperloop Center being already built, we thought it would be a great opportunity to have an infrastructure that is in the current most actual state of the art. The technology that the center has just offers what teams can make the most out of it. This is the technology that is more current right now. So in 2025, the EHW, as Jan-Willem already said, will take place in the EHC. I put here in Groningen. We have not fully developed all the contracts, all where the conference part is going to be, where all the public days are going to be. But we know that this event is going to happen in the province of Groningen. Where exactly we will publish later, even though we already have an idea. So now that we've taken a look about the history and where the EHW is going to happen next year, let's just look at what does the EHW actually do. So the EHW covers a lot of facets of the Hyperloop industry. We act as a conference where there's a lot of talks from industry representatives, universities, researchers, for example, like Lucas that we have right here. There's also roundtable discussions. So all these experts discuss current topics that need to be discussed that maybe bring some problems to the Hyperloop technology and how can we tackle them and solve them efficiently. And in the previous edition, we also added some workshops where we mix in teams from all the different teams, and they work on a problem also that the industry wants to listen their perspective. So the EHW also hosts an exhibition. Also, all these student teams bring, could be posters, their research, old prototypes that are not gonna be demonstrated, so that they are not moving. And it also gives the opportunity for people to walk around and just ask them questions about it. Normally, this exhibition is hosted at the university where the conference takes place. So there's a lot of students also walking around that can be that can hear about the Hyperloop and just get a bit more acquainted with it. As a competition, there's also, in the EHW, there's also team pitches. So we have different categories where teams can apply for. The categories have changed a lot throughout the past, depending on the feedback that we have gotten and what we have also seen in the competition that works best. I'm not gonna reveal what the exact competition categories are for this year, as we're still on the work of the R&R, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But I can tell you in other years, we had, for example, a complete system category, showcasing category, also a subsystem part, and the research part of it, where teams write an article. But teams not only compete in these categories, but they're also eligible for other awards that align with our interests, but also the industry interests. So for example, we form partnerships with companies from this industry, and we give a possibility for our sponsors to just give an award that aligns with their view. So for example, in the past, we've had awards for thermal management, scalability, vacuum technologies, and sustainability. But there's also other awards that promote collaboration and innovation. So for example, we've given the community award, which is more related to just collaborating with the other teams, and the innovation award. But we've also given awards to promote Hyperloop technologies, like in the previous edition, an outreach award, which was given to a team that would promote these Hyperloop technologies and their social media. Next, there's a part for a technology demonstration, where teams demonstrate the vehicles that they have built in the past year. For this, there's a pods, a vehicle, and normally that goes into an infrastructure track that is built at a location. And next edition, this location will be the EHC. So that can be inside the tube that the Hyperloop Center has built, but it can also be that the teams bring their own infrastructure where they test their vehicles. During this technology demonstration normally takes place during one specific day, which normally is on Saturdays. This day is also open to the public and promoted, so that they can actually see what is going on and what steps have been taken these past years and where we are at right now. But the EHW also serves as a public awareness, as a promoter of Hyperloop technologies. During the EHW, we also form exhibitions for all the prototypes, all the research, all other material that the teams bring to the EHW, at a central public square. This last year happened in Europa Alley, square right outside of Zurich Central Station. But yeah, it depends every year, depending where we host the competition. We also participate in Hyperloop seminars like this to try to bring the message a bit more out and send these Hyperloop seminars to all the teams that participate in the HW and spread the state-of-the-art knowledge on Hyperloop technologies, either by, for example, sharing a Hyperloop repository, which contains all the research papers that have been written in the past by all the participating teams, or an initiative that we started this year that is publishing summary pages of the teams, which are documents that contain a summary of what each team has built that past year, what advancements they've made, and just in general how their prototype works, so the knowledge is not lost. Now we've seen what the EHW actually does. What does one European Hyperloop week look like? Well, to be honest, I actually lied to you at the beginning. The EHW is not actually a week-lasting event normally. Since we start this week a few weeks before an assembly, so teams bring their infrastructure that they have to build, which normally goes from 0 to 50, 100 meters. And this takes quite a long while to build. It's students that are going to build all of this. There are heavy beams that they have to install, and they require also quite high levels of precision to up to 1 millimeter. After assembly, we start with the scrutineering processes. We can see here some of our lovely judges. During this process, the judges, the scrutineers, take a look at the prototypes and ensure that they are safe and that they cannot produce any harm to anyone. They also check procedures. How do the teams work? Are they working in a proper way that can be sure that there's not going to be any accidents during this week? So the EHW schedule, the EHW week itself, next year is going to be the 14th of July to the 20th, if I'm correct, the third week of July. And it's divided in, we can say it's divided in 3. So during the first 4 days of the week, Monday to Thursday, well, first we have a little bit of a welcome, and then we start with the conference and pitch part of it. So these first days, we invite a lot of experts, researchers, just people from the industry that can provide something and give us an insight into what they're doing, and just bring into discussion topics that can make people think and just bring out a bit of curiosity and promote this Hyperloop technologies. For this, we have general in the mornings, these expert talks, some discussion tables where they can talk out all these topics, and also the workshops. And then on the afternoons, we tend to have the team pitches where the teams present either their whole system that they've built, the research they've conducted, or also just a specific subsystem they've worked on. The last edition on Friday, we left it free for testing, since Saturday, the demonstration day, but this day could change a bit around depending on the specific needs of that European Hyperloop week. Last year it was for testing, but there was also an Innovate Mobility event hosted by Eurotube. And other years, it was also just a presentation day since we lacked some presentation time. On Saturday, this is the demonstration day. Like I said, it's the day where all the teams show the advances done, and you showcase their technology and how it works, all the levitation system, propulsion system, perhaps braking system. And lastly, on Sundays, we have a public day. Like I said, this happens on a public square, and we end up the week and award ceremony. We announce the winners. of each of the categories that I've said before. So after all this, what is new on the EHW 2025? Well, while there's still a lot to be discussed, we do know where the EHW is going to take place, and some feedback that we've gotten, and some advancements we want to do for next edition. So I can present to you some of them. First of all, EHW is hosted at the EHC. This testing facility can provide a lot of options for teams. First of all, because it's a infrastructure already used by a company that's working on Hyperloop and developed it for a lot of years. So it gives the opportunity for a team to use this infrastructure without the need of developing it themselves. In this sense, it also provides the option for teams not to have to move their whole infrastructure from their home country to the Netherlands and have to build it again, align it, which tend to cause, well, a lot of costs. It's also human resources, time. So this is a great alternative for teams. As some may have already seen in some documentation, we're no longer providing the I-beam. This is for a number of reasons. The I-beam hasn't been used in previous EHWs, I think for already 3 years. I'm not sure if it was used in Valencia. And it just cost the EHW more resources on our side. And as well, we don't believe the I-beam will be the track that will push forward for this technology. However, we don't want to limit teams, so we do not ban the I-beam. So if we also see that a lot of teams want to bring it, we will put all these teams in contact so they can also arrange among themselves how they want to move forward and use the I-beam. We're changing also the awarding system based on last year, but again, I cannot just reveal this to you yet. We're still working on it, some details to work out. We want to reduce the documentation. The FDDs were very long other years, up to 300, 400 pages, and just impossible to read all of them in the detail that would expect from it. And also testing documentation will be changed, as in the end, during scrutineering, the safety of prototypes is rechecked again, and it's not necessary to ask for so many details in this documentation. But we're also investigating how to make the participation of these teams more affordable. Since in previous editions, we have seen that the number of teams that participate drop throughout the year due to constraints on budget. So for this, we're also trying to work out partnerships, which the HDP, other engineering societies, give a bit of credibility to the HW. So it's easier for teams to say, there's an other organization that has a reputation behind the competition we're participating at, and then perhaps they can easily get more sponsors and more support from their universities. And lastly, we also want to help teams to go through customs and prototypes forward. You will definitely be hearing from all of this soon. We're right now working on the rules and regulations together with past jurors, also the EHC and Hard Hyperloop, which have a lot of knowledge to push through and help us with, especially regarding safety. So with this, I have concluded my presentation. I wanted to say, so I just wanted to give a part for questions that you might have. So thank you.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much, Mario. There are questions indeed. One of the first questions is, what will be the boundary conditions on the vehicle to test in the EHC tube, and when are the rule stocks to be expected for the Hyperloop teams?
Sorry, can you repeat again the second part of the question?
When are the rules and regulations expected for the Hyperloop teams?
All right, so the constraints for the EHC right now, I think you have seen in some of the pictures, the The EHC has a lane switch on it. It's a 420-meter long tube, but we're not going to be using this lane as part of it. So the EHC will be constrained to around 100 meters. So you can achieve, well, the speed that you can in those meters. Constraints on mass of the vehicle, I think we have up to the infrastructure is designed to up to 2 tons. But for the specifics of it, if you go to our webpage and you click to EHW 2025 and technical documentation, you can find some guidelines for how to use the infrastructure. We're also having meetings, teams that are interested in using the infrastructure, because it's also quite a complex infrastructure and has some small things that HART and the EHC can help you navigate and find a better solution on how to use it. Regarding the rules and regulations, we're expecting to have it at the end of this month. We have a draft at the moment, but we're still working on finalizing the safety part of it and making it a bit more understandable for everyone. Yeah.
Nice, great. And the second question, Warwick Hyperloop is asking where they can find the pictures and photos taken from demonstration day, and is there any kind of ability to access them to look at them for the next year's competition?
There is definitely a way to access them. I have to figure out a way to share them in a way that not everyone can edit them. But I can definitely share a link after this or include it in the webpage. But that's a very good point.
Perfect. So I would say, like, go and write an email to EHW, to the EHW inbox, or contact Mario to ask for the pictures. Then there's a next one. Will there be any feedback for the teams that competed in EHW 2024? And they say it's difficult to improve if you don't know what's good, what's bad. So if there's any feedback, I know that from being a judge, there's a lot of feedback that teams already get during scrutineering. So it's definitely helpful to ask team members from last year's to get what they went through in scrutineering and where their probably their stones in their paths were, and how to proceed with those. But maybe you have some more detailed feedback.
Yeah. So at the moment, we don't have a list with all the feedback from the jury. I think it is something we could work on. It is sometimes challenging to get a lot of information out of jurors. They're also very busy people. But indeed, like Lucas said, a lot of the feedback is set during scrutineering and award ceremonies. But I can definitely pass this on to the new technical leads and try to contact the jury to get you some feedback. At the moment, we have it, but we'll work towards it.
And then I would also advise to listen to some of the EHW specific talks that we have here in this Hyperloop seminar, as you can really find some valuable input here. And we also had some special sessions last year on EHW, on the engineering of prototypes for EHW, on the research part of EHW and how to proceed with that. I'm just looking at our YouTube channel here where we have 2 sessions. Last year there was a special session also on management and economics for all the team management and the partners you want to acquire. And then there was a special session that has actually had you in there as well, Mario, that was about the engineering for the successful Hyperloop demonstration. So there's a few talks, EHW specific talks here as well, that we would really encourage you to listen on YouTube as well for your next EHW participation. And then just as a last word, there was a question about updated technical documents and regulations that are published. I just put a very extensive answer of that in the chat, in the Q&A actually. So if you want to look at that one, take a look in the Q&A, copy, paste, or screenshot that one if you want to take a look afterwards at what I've answered there. It wasn't a very specific question, so I just wrote a lot of different topics in there. Maybe some other people here from the organizations may want to add to that. If they want to add something, there's the place and time right now. Anybody want to say something about new technical documents or regulation? Don't see any hands. Okay. Well then, thank you, Mario, for your presentation. It was very nice having you. Thank you for all the other institutions to also look at what we are doing and listen to us, what we are doing. Thanks to all the participants. We'll be back next time with the next scheduled seminars on the 28th of October. That will be next week. We'll have two talks about life cycle analysis, projects that are more in the realm of feasibility studies, case studies, all the global Hyperloop stories and trends that are going on right now. You can listen to there. So that will be also very relevant probably for all the people who are doing full-scale Hyperloop research in EHW teams. So encourage your teammates to listen to this one. Look at this one for insights into the Hyperloop ecosystem and what's happening right now. With that said, I want to say bye and thank you all for listening. See us next week.